University's Center for Psychiatric Rehabilitation's goal is to connect our viewers with supportive resources in the community and to help individuals enhance their career development and overall well-being. Everyone can be successful with the right support.
In the last ditch, I think of you.
I think of you.
In the last ditch, I will be true.
Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Bissett, and I'm here to welcome you to Employment for All, where I help you find a job, change jobs, or advance in the job you currently have. Each week, we bring you interesting and informative guests, and this week is no exception. We'd like to welcome Sean Snyder.
Hello.
We're very happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
You're actually with the Arlington Community Media Incorporated.
Yep. I'm with Arlington Community Media Incorporated, ACMI for short. I'm the media programming coordinator, so I handle everything from the website to all our design elements and all the programming for the three channels we have. We have a public, government, and educational channel.
Fantastic. And some people watching might say, wait a minute, you're from Arlington and you do the same thing as Boston Neighborhood Network, but there's really no competition.
No, it's actually a really cool field to be in because it's more collaborative than competitive. We all typically work together. We're all trying to achieve the same goals, but we have different local communities that we're all working for.
Great. So it's really, it's to promote kind of what's going on locally to help everyone have access and have a voice and have a say.
Yep.
That's a fantastic mission. And actually, they have a really neat mission, and we have it listed. I think it's going to come up on the screen, and we can tell people what the mission is. It's very similar to Boston Neighborhood Network's mission.
It's basically to create an electronic forum for residents of Arlington to cover their interests, concerns, everything.
Fantastic, and we can read it. It's exactly, the Arlington Community Media is dedicated to providing an electronic forum, ideas which reflect the talent, skills, interests, concerns, and the diversity of Arlington community. So I think that's kind of cool. That's their official mission.
Yep.
And it's very similar to BNN's, to get the word out, to give people a voice, especially young adults. I know BNN really focuses on young adults, teaching them the skills that they need to really be a productive and contributing member of society.
That's right.
So it's cool.
We actually do a lot of work, particularly with youth. We have a great relationship with the high school, and we do a lot of team building. We have a lot of group productions. We have our youth production group is called Focus Media, and they do a great job. I mean, they basically run themselves. We give them ideas and some assistance, but they're usually in there producing themselves and coming up with their own program ideas, and it's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic, really, because I was actually just recently on your show, on the Arlington show.
Yep.
I was actually on the Young Adult Vocational Program, YAVP.
YAVP TV.
YAVP TV. Yep. And they interviewed me about how I help young adults find jobs. And it was really neat. There were young adults behind the cameras. There were young adult interviewed me. It was very funny to be the interviewee, not the interviewer. Right. But they were really learning really marketable skills.
One of the big things we focus on is training. So if whether it's a student, an adult, anybody in between, young adults included especially, when they come in, they get training in video production, video editing, graphic design, studio production, field production. So there's a whole range of skills that they can learn, and I don't know, helps build them up for a career. And if that's their interest, I mean, videos everywhere now, like on the web, and it's part of everything. So
right, absolutely, it's a huge part of finding a job. Social media and everything that we're part of. I'm working on a grant, and I'm kind of the social media consultant, because you need to know, you need to be out there on Facebook and Twitter, and you need to have videos because so many people are now accessing what you're doing.
It's true.
And even to have a video in we're actually putting videos in the PowerPoint, and I'm like, ooh, we're getting kind of high tech. It's kind of cool. It's tricky to make it happen. But it also helps you come up quicker on any site. If you're, we're putting videos on YouTube and connecting it to our website and things like that.
Right.
But it makes you come up quicker when you're, when someone's searching for you. So it makes a lot of sense to be video savvy.
It's also pretty important to know the message you're trying to convey.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people without training or experience just jump in and put up, video and photos of, maybe what they did last weekend, but maybe it's more important to do something productive of like a project you worked on or something along those lines.
Yes, and that's why I think it's so great that you work with young adults, because you help them create the questions. So not only are they kind of behind the cameras, but they're in front of the cameras, they're creating kind of the message they want, what they're trying to convey, they're looking at their endpoint. And these are all fantastic skills that they can bring to an employer, and also they can use in their job search. So they're not putting up, videos of them at a party, they're putting up, okay, I created this at ACMI. How neat is that?
Oh, it's great.
And the young adults can really go forward with that and say, you can check out my YouTube page, and these are some videos that I shot.
Yeah, I think it's actually a pretty big confidence builder to say that, this is something that I've created, and this is, the product of my labor, and put your little stamp on it,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty huge.
Yeah, to just say like, oh, I was part of this, and whatever your part was, you just, you stand up a little straighter, whoever you are, like, wow, I edited it to take out that little flub that I made, and I did this and I did that. And it's a helpful process, because when they go back to school or they think about going forward, they have something that they created they can show people, because actions speak louder than words. And even the ability to put it up on Facebook and put it up on YouTube and things like that.
Right, that's a skill in itself.
Yes.
The other big thing is it really helps build teamwork and teamwork skills, because that's not something you always think about, but when it comes to video, you can't do it all yourself. I mean, you need somebody behind the camera, somebody on a switcher, somebody writing the script or coming up with story ideas, and then somebody to interview or be the talent. So it's really a team process, and you can't do it alone.
Absolutely, and I know that very well. You have to make sure that everyone's got their questions ready and everyone knows where to go, and timing out the people correctly, and thinking about, okay, well, what happens when things don't go your way? Okay, someone was in the studio last night. Yes, exactly. Someone was in the studio last night. The thing is messed up. What do we do? How do we go forward? And those are lifelong skills that people can learn. Okay, how do we bunt? How do we, kind of adjust when things aren't exactly going smoothly?
Learning to deal with circumstances is a very important aspect of video production, television.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So it's great that you offer different classes at different times and different levels. So you mentioned a few of them.
Yeah, we pretty much run the gamut. We do video production and editing. We have a field camera workshop. So, I mean, the goal is to get people to see what's available. So we start them out very broad, but then we try to, work towards their skills and interests. So if they want to be in front of a camera, we'll work on their ability to interview or be talent. Or if they're really interested in editing, then we'll work on their editing skills. Or if just graphics, we'll help them out with their graphic skills. But I mean, it's completely up to the members to, really express to us what their desires are.
Right, and it's very customized towards the young adults, and that's very similar to BNN. We have, if people haven't seen it, you got to come in and check it out. BNN has this amazing facility where they teach a lot of different courses, and you can go to BNN TV and check them out. But they have this great state-of-the-art kind of computer course, and they teach everything from networking to director to copy editing and editing a video and things like that.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to really utilize these services. And one of the things that I want to talk about is just being part of either BNN or Arlington or any of the community media stations is proximity is power.
Right. Yeah, your message is really hitting your local audience. That's one of the really cool things about community television is you're not dealing with, well, first of all, you're not dealing with commercials in the first place, but you're not dealing with national ad campaigns or national marketing campaigns. You're dealing with voices that surround you, and it's people that are your neighbors and your friends, and actually have, interests that align with yours, and, have the same beliefs and community that you do.
Right, and it's being part of it. So there's two levels to that, because one is you're hitting the actual people who you're most connected with and connect with them on a deeper level. Right. And then also if you're a young adult or if you're any person who wants to be involved in TV, this is a great way to kind of build your skills and be there so that you're moving forward and you're positioned in the right place. Exactly. To really take off your career. Right. So on that note, let's talk a little bit about your career path, because it's been a little varied and very interesting, and it talks about a lot of things that we value here on Employment for All. Right.
Well, I guess the key to my career has been diversity in employment. Although I guess the core has always been media and communications. I started out of school as a fine arts graduate, and started freelancing graphic design. And then from there, I jumped to working in radio, and I actually started volunteering for a radio station. And that ended up turning into some part-time employment, and it was a great resume builder, a great career builder. From there, I went on to work at WGBH in the promotions department, and up to that point and including that point, everything was built off the step before. And when I was in the promotions department, I was doing mostly design work, graphic design work for print promotions. And then while at GBH, I went back to school. I went to Emerson for a master's in visual media arts.
Visual media arts, okay.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. But
yeah.
So I went back to school while I was in there, and and then from there I got a job writing for an engineering magazine, and ended up DJing for a radio station for a little while, and ended up eventually at Arlington Community Media after probably 10 years of consistent freelancing and a whole bunch of part-time, media-related jobs.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. So let's talk about freelancing. So people might know, how do we define freelancing?
Well, I define it as the ability to provide a product for a client on your own using a specialized skill. In my case, it's pretty broad, but I do graphic design, web design, and music production. So all three of those things have been part of my freelance business. It's a little difficult at times because getting clients is not always the easiest. I think the saying is it's easier to keep a good client than to get a new one.
Yes.
So it's always work, and you never know when the money's coming in, which is, it's not what you want to focus on with your craft, but it's the reality of it. You have to pay bills and make some money while working. So it's not easy. It's not for everybody, but it's also rewarding because if you're successful with it, you're working for yourself. You're investing your time into a skill that you already, I hope at that point, have an interest in. And overall, I'd say it's a pretty good process, but a difficult one, a challenging one anyway.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that, as in most things in life, what's more rewarding is actually a lot of times more challenging.
Right.
But it's balancing out what is the right job match for you. And I haven't had a lot of freelancers on the show. And I think it's important to talk about that because I counsel a lot of people in career development, and I actually encourage them, if they're thinking about freelancing, to have some kind of structure or steady kind of thing in their life. Ideally, some kind of flow of money coming in, whether it's a part-time job that's related or not related, ideally related, but to have some structure so that and also if they can have an avenue to generate kind of more clients.
Yeah, and structure's the key. I mean, even knowing that you're at your desk doing work from 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are, having that consistency is, going to be a game changer. That's going to make or break your ability.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, one tenet also that we've heard through the freelancing is also volunteering and interning. Can you speak to the importance of that? Because that's kind of a mantra here at Employment for All.
Volunteering and interning are incredible skills, abilities. It's a great opportunity to network. It's a great opportunity to really explore your interests, because when you're volunteering, you don't volunteer just to volunteer like for your own personal goals, but when you're volunteering at a place that you believe in and doing something that you believe in, it's a good time. It's I don't know how better to say it.
No, it's true. It's a way to really connect with people. It's a way to kind of deepen your skills, to see if you have an interest, to explore an interest. And a lot of people tell me, I don't have time to volunteer, I don't have time to intern. But in my philosophy, especially when you're a young adult, is you don't have time not to.
Exactly.
Because you get to figure out, before you go to school and spend a lot of time, we know it's a lot of money and a lot of interest in time, figure out if you like to do it hands-on, day-to-day. Do you like to talk about that topic? Do you enjoy doing the things that you need to do in order to reach the goals that are set out by an organization or by the task? Or, kind of figuring out, it's a great way to kind of figure out, is this how I want to spend my day? Because you're going to spend a lot of time at work.
Right. It's very true. You'll find very quickly whether or not it's something you enjoy doing or not.
Yes.
It's also a great way to stay social if you're not in an employment position. Because that's one of the hardest parts about freelancing is you're often working alone.
Yes.
So if you have the opportunity to volunteer, you still stay social, you meet people, you share, even if it's just joking around, it's still like a social engagement. And
Yes.
it helps.
Absolutely. Even the interns here at BNN, we've actually helped a lot of people, a lot of young people become interns at Boston Neighborhood Network through
Great.
various jobs that I've been part of. And they have a camaraderie
Yeah.
onto their own. We see it before,
Yeah.
you know, behind the scenes in the camera, and they really enjoy what they're doing for the most part. A lot of them are getting credit for school, but there's a connection here, and it matters if they don't show up because
Right.
someone's not behind camera.
Somebody's
number one.
counting on them.
Right, someone's counting on them, but they're building relationships. They're also learning about, you know, how to mic. You know, that's a specific skill that's very tricky. They don't even let me mic, you know, because you have to do it in the right way. And you walk away. We had one young man that was an intern here, and he now is working full-time, employed. And at first he was like, an intern, is that right? Do I need to do an internship? And it really built his not only confidence, but his competence.
Right.
So, and one built on the other, and as he felt more confident, he got more competence. And now he's working full-time, and he has been for about 5 years.
That's great.
And really BNN launched him.
Yeah.
Because if you can, being on a live show or taping a show, there's some pressure to that.
Definitely.
And he learned a lot of skills working and listening to the studio manager and interacting with his coworkers, and it really helped him and continues to help him.
That's great.
It was a good foundation. So I can't underscore enough that volunteering and interning really help people so much. And I think especially when you're a young adult, you have time to try on many different hats.
Right. It's true. Especially, I mean, not everybody has the luxury, but if you're living at home, you know, it's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Many adults, young adults would say that, absolutely.
You know, but it's a great opportunity to try new things and you know, really explore what your interests are.
Right, absolutely. And it was really neat when I was at the Arlington studio to see so many young adults doing so many different things, and they knew their role and they were waiting for it, you know, and they were like setting up the teleprompter and, you know, okay, we're going to enter this in the computer, and that they could do it was a really neat skill. And that they would say, we want, you know, we want the questions by this time, and that they were like, okay, I'm on camera 1, I'm on camera 2. There was a nice kind of sense of their own ability to follow through and to do what they knew they could.
Yeah.
It was really a neat thing.
It is great.
And many of your volunteer positions have led to greater opportunities and led to jobs that probably wouldn't have been made available to you had you been the outsider sending in a resume.
Right. I think it's important. I mean, a lot of people we've hired from the inside, whether it's for part-time work or full-time stuff. And that's one thing I actually would have to say about volunteering is don't go into it with the expectation of getting hired.
That's true.
Because that can just be a negative approach. But, you know, always look at how you can contribute. And, you know, if you're contributing, people will always want to help you out.
Yes.
And I think the job-seeking saying is, you know, all the jobs come from inside, you know. Like everybody's hired. You only hire people you know, but if you're in front of somebody every day and doing a great job, you know, it's almost like a no-brainer that they either would hire you or recommend you to another job that they know about.
Absolutely, absolutely. 90% of jobs are networking.
Right.
And the best way to network is to volunteer because you're showing day to day. And one thing I want to encourage people, some people volunteer and they overcommit.
Right.
Oh, I'm going to be there 4 days a week, 10 to 4, but you can't do that if you have other financial commitments or other
Right.
things. So I always say under promise, over deliver.
That's
not my saying, but I don't. But it's an important saying because
I feel like that should be my motto.
it's a thing that we strive to, especially because you want to, you know, you think of a volunteer job and you say, I want to be there so much, I want to do it. But really to kind of think carefully about when you can really get there, make sure you're on time, and kind of do the best you can.
All those things still matter because
Yes.
you sometimes might think that, oh, I'm just volunteering, you know, they'll get what they can get,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
that's
not
not the
it's
right
not the way,
attitude.
you know.
Right.
You need to be committed and treat it like a job even if you're not getting paid.
Right, absolutely. And I like how you said it, don't have the expectation of being hired, but that always is. Either they're going to look at you and say like, oh, there's this opportunity. Who knows when a grant can come up?
Right.
Who knows what will happen from this? And they're going to go to the person who's on time, has a great attitude, is participating in the best way, and always building their skills.
Yep.
But the person who's not showing up, kind of always late, kind of
Right.
doing the least
Always
minimal
looking
thing.
for something. You know?
Yeah. Will not be the person. And I can't tell you how many people have been hired as volunteers. I get calls all the time. I always check in if I help someone find a placement, but a lot of times the different networks and people call me up, this person's volunteering. Do you think that they would be a great fit? Absolutely. And the person agrees with me. Well, they've been there. They've been doing the job. You want to give that person the opportunity when you can.
Right.
So it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about, it's tricky to figure out where your degree is kind of very specialized. And I
Right.
think that's something people struggle with, when and how to go to school. And there's also other options. How did you decide when to go to school and what specific kind of degree?
I decided to go back to school. It was a slightly different time than it is now, and it was about 6 years ago when I decided to, more than that now, when I decided to go back. We had not yet hit the current recession we're in,
Right.
so things were still looking up. But I wanted to learn a specialized skill and also work with people that were also interested in the same, whether it was technical or creative ideas that I was interested in. So I had a great opportunity to do that. Actually tried a couple times to get into schools and eventually did get in, and I think I proved it in my application, I guess, I don't know. But it was really about collaboration and trying to work towards common goals. Now we are in a different era economically and such. And I think that one of the biggest issues on the forefront is tuition and tuition
Yes.
hikes. I think just yesterday maybe, they were talking about raising public school tuitions for public colleges in
Wow.
California and New York. And I mean, community education has always been, a resource for people without means.
Right.
Or
It's
with
very
few means.
been accessible.
Yeah.
And they're even some schools like North Carolina, they're really looking at that state school system and trying to make cuts in that. And
Right.
that's one of the most prestigious public institutions and state systems. And when they're looking at cutting that, you have to think, oh my goodness.
I know it's a tough time, but additionally with student loans and everything, I mean,
Yes.
it just kind of seems to be, for some people anyways, it seems to be more of a problem than a benefit. I don't know that higher education is necessarily for everyone. I think you can get a lot of comparable skills out of, like I was saying, volunteering, or I'm a firm believer in the apprentice model.
Tell us about that, the apprenticeship model.
Well, I mean, it's nothing new. It's actually incredibly old.
Right.
But if you can work with somebody that's willing to, give you transfer skills to you from their knowledge, and you probably don't work for much, but you won't make much as a start. But if it's something you're interested in going into, you could then branch off into it yourself. But you're not paying a ton of money and going into debt to learn, workable skills. And then if you get to a point after apprenticing, after interning, where you really are still passionate about something, then, go to school. Like if you've already proven to yourself that it's a skill or a field that you're interested in, definitely pursue it academically.
Absolutely, it's a great way to explore what you're interested in a very hands-on way. I would say I'm passionate about career development, so I often ask people, I had my electrician in the other day, and he was like, I said, how'd you get into electrician? And he said, actually, I have a couple other degrees, but when I went into the field, it wasn't for me. It didn't match up.
Right.
Being an electrician for him works, so he could be able to kind of meet his family obligations, make the amount of money he needed to, and actually enjoy what he was doing. He said, when I finish an electrical job, it's done, and things work better. And he liked that feeling. So I was thinking about, how to put it all together. So for him, he said, I went in a different direction, but he kind of said, I wish I had known a little bit more before I went through it.
Right.
So it's thinking about that. Learning under someone is less of a cost
Financially, anyway.
less of a cost financially, absolutely, to see, is it for you?
Right.
And if someone can take you on like that, right, the plumbers were trained that way, masons were trained that way, a lot of individuals I've trained under that way in job development to see, is this something you want to go to school in?
Right.
So it's a very effective model. I think it's another model that I think is going to be looked at much more carefully in the future.
Yeah.
And it might be augmented with a certification rather than going to a 2-year associate's or a 4-year bachelor's or extended further higher education.
And I think, I'm not 100% sure how this always works, but you can audit classes at
Yes.
universities, and especially in Boston. I mean, we have Harvard, MIT,
Yes.
and the like. And if you can audit a class, I think it's incredibly cheap compared to the degree program. So if you're really into it for the knowledge, you could take the classes for pretty comparatively low price and come out with some comparable skills.
Absolutely, that's also a great way to test it out, to think about. I was a special student at Boston College before I entered my doctoral degree program, so I took a couple classes to see if they were the right fit for me,
Right.
and I did well, so it helped me get into the schools because I was tested before I went into the program, but also helped me to see, is this the kind of thing I want to do? Are these the type of people I want to be surrounded by? Is this a field that makes sense as a match for me? So that's a great suggestion. So we're not saying that higher ed isn't part of the solution, but we want to look carefully and let people know there are lots of other options than kind of this is right for me and how your learning style works. So I think that's important. So as we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you and a final question around, is there anything, so if a young person or anyone who's thinking of entering into a career similar to yours, what would be the advice that you would give them?
Well, I would say don't give up. You know, if it's something you're interested in, you pursue it, and it's not going to be easy necessarily. Nothing ever is. That's worth doing anyway.
Right.
And yeah, don't give up, and never discredit an experience or a person that you've met. Always take every scenario as a value and try to build off of it and learn from it.
That's true. Even if you get in a situation where you're like, these aren't exactly the skills that you will hope to be learning, but fulfill that commitment and then move on to say, okay. So I love that. Never discredit an experience because it can teach you things. I know I was filing an insurance company when I was a lot younger, and it taught me that I don't really want to file.
Right.
And not that there's anything wrong, I know, with filing in itself, but it wasn't a match for me. I didn't really get that satisfaction. And I worked with some people that were like, whoa, that pile of filing is done.
Can't wait to get at it.
Yeah, and they were fantastic at it.
Right.
But it wasn't a skill. I knew I wanted to increase my skills in other ways to do things. And it made for a very interesting piece of helping me figure out, well, what did I find value in? And there's tremendous value in filing, but for me, it didn't kind of get me up in the morning.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm going to tackle those
Wasn't your
multicolor.
passion.
Wasn't my passion, my multicolor photos. So that's fantastic. So we'd like to thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's very helpful to see. It's kind of fun to have a collaborator from Arlington come on.
It's nice being in the BNN studios.
That's right. It's kind of fun. I know because I was in, probably about 3 weeks ago, I was in the Arlington studio, so it's kind of fun. I get to go around. And we're actually, for our grant, going to go and try and go out in different studios. So we get to see a lot of different studios. So that's going to be a fun process. And we're even going to take our new show. We're transitioning shows. And it's going to be called Mainstream. So Employment for All is going to be called Mainstreamed. And we're going to focus on young adults who experience mental health issues.
Great.
And we're still going to keep our favorite tagline, everyone can be successful with the right supports.
It's true.
So we want people to stay tuned in, but we're actually going to go off location sometimes and go to different community partners, different young adult places, and help them figure out how they're going to put forth their mission.
Right.
So we're really excited about that. So
That's
stay
awesome.
tuned for that. And we're actually, Employment for All is on Arlington TV too.
Yep.
So we're gonna figure out ways we can collaborate more to let people see as they go into different communities how they can access us.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Sean.
Oh, you're welcome.
We really
Thank you.
appreciate lots of helpful information.
Yep.
And I'd like to say thank you very much for our viewers to tuning in to Employment for All. We hope you stay with us as we continue and we become mainstreamed. Everyone can be successful with the right supports will be our tagline. And we want you to look for that person who might be in need of that extra support and really reach out to them to see if they can reach their full potential. We'd like to also say thank you to the Department of Mental Health for sponsoring our show and to our viewers for tuning in. This is Kim Bissett saying have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.